on the topic of ICE terror and what was happening, in Minneapolis, there was a very unfortunate or, really terrible news that broke this week. ICE in the past week, in the past 5 days, has actually had a massive upsurge in activity. Over 10,000 people have been arrested by ICE in the last 5 days, which is almost gone unnoticed because we're not seeing the same massive deployment to cities like we saw again in Minneapolis, in Chicago, this very visible presence. They've obviously changed their strategy, but they have increased activity. And on July 7th, while carrying out a raid in Houston, Texas, rounding up hardworking people, ICE shot and killed a Mexican construction worker and father, Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. He was in his vehicle on his way to work. ICE stopped the vehicle, attempted to arrest all of the people that he was with, and in the process, shot and killed him. An atrocious incident. Of course, there has been dozens of people that have died in ICE detention, but this is, I think it is the third, it's actually the fifth, I think, open kind of killing by ICE in the streets in the course of an arrest. Horrific, and sorry, not in the course of arrest, because of course Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy were not being arrested, but they were killed in the course of ICE operations. There was a press conference yesterday held in Houston, Texas. His son spoke. Let's hear a clip from that press conference.
I'm calling for a full investigation into the events that transpired yesterday, July 7th. He did not deserve to die. He did not deserve to be reduced to a headline of Mexican man shot and killed by ICE. He deserved to live a quiet life as Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, a husband, a father, and a job creator for dozens of men who also wanted the American dream.
That's right.
I would be doing his memory a disservice if I didn't recognize the other 3 men who were with him, one of which was my uncle. All 3 men were rounded up. I have not heard from them, but I hope that they are able to provide their own statements to prove that my father feared for his life as unmarked cars followed my dad, who only wanted to get back to work and back to us.
So it's a horrifying tragedy, and his son, who's speaking there in the press conference, also said that he had heard about ICE activity and had been worried about his dad, and recognized that it was in fact his dad who had been shot and killed, because he saw the video and recognized his father's voice screaming and pleading for help as he laid bleeding out on the street. So again, this is really, words escape one in this moment. But, I just wanted to say before passing it to you, Rania, this week, and we spoke about it on the show on Tuesday, Cuba presented before the United Nations General Assembly to speak about the blockade currently on the country. And Bruno Rodriguez, the foreign minister of Cuba, took a moment to talk about the people in the United States who have been terrorized by ICE. He held up a photo of Renee Nicole Good. He spoke about Liam Conejo, who was also arrested by ICE during that Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis. These are people who are paid by our tax dollars to terrorize people in this country. So, Ronnie, I don't know your thoughts on this incident.
No, it's a nightmare. What he described is a nightmare. That's like anyone's nightmare. And I just don't understand how there are people who support this. Like, why do you support doing that to people? Why do you support that kind of terror? Why? Like, you've dehumanized like non-white Americans and non-Americans so much. And even when white Americans have been shot and killed by ICE, if they have the wrong politics, like the people who support these roundups, deportations, and killings, they literally, it's fascism. They strip you of your humanity in their minds if you don't share their politics and don't share their ethnicity. Like, it's either or, by the way, but especially if you don't share their ethnicity. So it's just disgusting. There's no excuse for this. And this is why when people are like, oh, like the right and left can unite. I actually cannot unite with a right that supports that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, find me a right that doesn't support that. Like,
Right.
find me a right that doesn't support that. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a right that's
Right.
not in favor of mass deportations and giving ICE the ability to like do this. 'Cause that's why this is happening. So it's just disgusting. These people are homicidal. They're being funded by our tax dollars, and the killing is going to continue. This was totally unnecessary and preventable. But we have a political apparatus. Like, I don't even hear the opposition party talking about this anymore, because it was only useful sort of when there was people in the streets in Minneapolis to try to, like, you know, parasite off of some of that movement energy. But like, except for like the leftists who just like won in these Democratic primaries, I don't hear anyone talking about ICE anymore. So this is disgusting. This is criminal. That person should be prosecuted and jailed and should certainly not have a gun and be allowed to point it at people with a freaking badge. And this family should be compensated. Like, because not that fixes it, but like, this is such a crime. A man has been murdered. So yeah, sorry, I'm just really angry. This is so outrageous.
Yeah, it's really horrifying. And before we move to the next story, I'd just say that what has followed after his death is of course a villainization by not only right-wing media, but also the Department of Homeland Security, which has tried to say that, you know, he was a threat. The same exact lines they use anytime the police kills someone who is not a threat to them. The same lines, by the way, that they used for Alex Petty, that they used for Renee Nicole Good, and that they have used against Black victims of police violence for decades. So really horrifying stuff. But I think, you know, just to remind people that there are mass protests taking place yesterday. I think hundreds or thousands of people were on the streets of Houston to stand side by side with his family to demand justice and to demand an end to the ICE deployment to the city, and of course demand the end of ICE. So, you know, important that the fight back continues, and it of course is reignited by such tragic incidents like this.